Morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, folks, it's been in the media in more recent times, concerns regarding the development taking place in the Friendship area on the Tobago western end of the island. And this morning we have the opportunity chatting with us, Derek Hearn, environmentalist, and the man that is said to be in the midst of all the happenings that are taking place down there. Good morning to you and welcome, sir.
Good morning.
And,
How
and
are
you
you
know,
today?
we have to certainly extend a very warm welcome. I think this is your first time on set here at the Tobago Updates Morning Show.
Yes, it is. I think you came down when we were doing Friendship Festival
Right.
and did an outside broadcast.
All right, excellent. So as we get the conversation started this morning, tell us, for the benefit of our viewers, where do you reside in that area
Well,
in Tobago West?
I live in an old 350-year-old was a sugar mill at one stage. So, yeah, I live in an old mill.
So we're,
Um,
we're, we're told that you would have been awoken, on a particular
well,
day to the situation. So give us a little insight into what took place, and then we discuss some of the issues at hand more directly.
Mother's Day, I think that would be the 14th of May. Um, I I was walking around going to my horses. Um, then a gentleman came banged at the gate and said they want to come to where the horses are. There's a little wooden house in front of my horse stables, which is also a heritage site. It's been built 100 and something years ago. And he said, well, he was coming through there. And I said, well, not on my watch. You're not coming through here because you'll have no paperwork, because nobody's issued me with any notice or any papers to say that you're going to build a road through this house and my stables and go all the way up to Killigwin. So I just said, no, you have no way of doing this because you have no permission to do this. Well, he didn't really take me on. They kept on bringing loads and loads of truckloads of gravel to build the road. Um, the police came. They couldn't move me. I then starts to realize these guys are really serious. But there's still no paper to say that this is what they want to do. In my will, um, that is very disrespectful to come to somebody who's been living in a property for 35 years and bulldoze the house or stables on their property and without giving them any due course of warning. I mean, that was very surprising to me. I mean, I've dealt with the THA before with other, I don't like to get into politics,
Yes.
so I'm just seeing the blanket of the THA, but it is one organization that have many heads, and they all change what they're doing. But you're supposed to be representing the Tobago House of Assembly. So when you make deals as the House of Assembly, you have rules to follow. We all have rules to follow. If people want the youths to listen to rules, they should follow the rules. So if the government is not following the rules, the people won't follow the rules.
Is this the first time you're seeing these kinds of efforts in terms of what is purported to be this road to be developed and some semblance of a road existing there from in the past?
The only thing I knew about was in 2008, they wanted to pull the high voltage wires there. My cousin, the owner of the estate, was alive then. She gave them permission to come into the property. I let them, they came and they bulldozed my orchard in order to put the high voltage towers. They never it's taken me 8 years going to TNTech each time to try and get them to give me compensation for knocking on a orchard that's producing stuff. But of course, it's never happened. And then this guy turns up and says he's coming through my stables and the house will deal with it. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
So your fear is that you can end up in a similar situation
Yes.
as 2008, which is now
Well,
in terms of,
my compensation for them mashing up things that they don't need to, and I thought that was settled already. They were going to bypass the middle of the estate because we are a country that's going to depend on our history because that is how we're going to make a living. The oil and gas are gone.
Yes.
We've managed to disappear that and give it to other parties and stuff like that. It's always heritage for me.
So I want to ensure that we're clear where the road is due to pass in terms of the works happening now.
It was supposed to pass
Yes.
through the heritage site, the little wooden house, and through the stables. I stopped them going there, so I let them go towards the past there. But I didn't realize how big it was a massive road. It felt like a 5-lane highway that they was trying to build. As I think you've seen it, and it's really wide, and I didn't even realize that you could put so much car access near a high voltage wire. I thought you're supposed to keep high voltage wire from the general public driving, because in my world, and for what I've seen, is if you keep putting metal little tinted things, the high voltage wire at some point will take out one of them. So it's just a numbers game. So you're driving near a high voltage wire, it could suck up, fry the people in that car very easily.
The question would be, I know you mentioned, Mr. Hearn, that in 2008, they would have received the permission from the landowner, which is your
My
relative.
cousin.
You're right. Your cousin, who has since passed on.
Yes.
Is it that you are in the process, or you now currently have responsibility for this property?
For my part, because I've been in different parts of the property for the last 35 years. When I came back from traveling, I started to go, I fell in love with Tobago. I felt at home. It was my uncle's farm. He was alive then. I brought lots of visitors from all over the world. I got married. My wife took over the stables, which we're at now. And yeah, so 35 years, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into that space. And I thought it would have been finished because the Oliver in London was the chief sack then. I brought a big organic conference to the Hilton, one of the first ones, with the European Communion investing in organic farming. And I would not like to say all the things that I kind of go, oh, okay, this is not really happening, but it happened, as it does in the developing world, as we are called.
So as it stands now, I mean, prior to what we will discuss next, what's the situation? Is it that the work that has been done is going through your property,
Yes.
or it's going through the area that is nearby you? Just clarify first.
It's going through my stables. I've had control over the stables over 30 years. But if the politicians would come and talk to me, it would make it a lot easier. But everybody is too busy, because I'm a quiet person. I get upset when they start breaking things that they can never replace, and that's sometimes the policy of they're mashed up, and then they tell you they'll give you a compensation after. But that's not how things should be done. You negotiate and then give the people a chance to you know, well, with the horses, they give us some protection. There's a road running through my pasture. I have very expensive horses, and we can't carry on business because there's a road.
Mm. All right, so thank you very much. Very interesting development. At this point, viewers, we're preparing to head on out to a break, but have no fear, we continue the discussion this morning with Derek Hearn as we get a little more insight into what's happening in the area from his perspective as someone who has been living there for just about, as he has indicated, just over 30 years or 35 years or so. We will continue the conversation just after this break. So we want to remind you, viewers, that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Put a smile on your face.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We're just at about 7:28 a.m. this morning, and this morning we're continuing the conversation with Mr. Derek Hearn, residing down there at the Friendship area. And just before we went out onto the break, reference was just being made to about the hope of being able to have a conversation with the Tobago House of Assembly. Correct, sir?
Yes.
Right. At this point, one of the things I want to seek to get some information on. So you were saying clearly over the time period in terms of leading up to this project or even prior, there's been no such conversation in relation to the space at hand.
Yes.
And not even written communication, any sort of notice or anything of the sort coming to you?
Zero.
All right.
It's like I don't exist, so then that is why I lead on in front of the truck, because it would make, because I have done protest action in many countries, and that gets a lot of attention.
Yes.
Because people start taking you more seriously. The contractors don't like it because you're costing them time, and time is money. And that's what they're working on. They're working on a tight thing they have to get done. And the government people, they're bureaucrats, so they just pencil pushing, and they don't really take it on.
So it's a case of where you are and the property where the road is being constructed. It's bound with state land,
yes.
and the Friendship, the property that you own.
My cousin sold Friendship Estate was 550 acres at that time. About 150 of that is mangrove, and then there's the rest of it, which I thought, I've heard talk of housing, I've heard talk of this, but nobody is, because they've been trying to get me out of Friendship for a long time. My cousin, who is dead, bless her soul, she's got a sticky chance of her next cousin coming back and not playing by the rules that they want.
Just to be clear, who has been trying to get you out of the Friendship estate?
Well, before Janice died, she tried to get me out, but she failed. And then she sold the estate with me as the encumbrance. Me and Mr. Small were the encumbrances. Mr. Small was sorted out. When the PNM was in charge of the House of Assembly, they came around and sat under my almond tree and said, well, we have to sort you out. And they never came back and sorted me out. Then it just went on years. It's been years since I had that meeting with them.
So it's a case where there's even an unresolved matter for the paperwork in terms of you continuing to reside there based on the seal. How do you see it? How do you see it
Give me my deed. That's what I see it as. I'm asking them to quantify. I've been putting my kids are born here. I bring people here. I bring lots of business. I've started things to help Tobagonians. I've had Tobagonians go out to the world and presenting a good face. We do a lot of stuff for the environment and the people that live around. I mean, I could bring lots of people who could clarify that I have helped, and I have always been a helpful person in my community. And yeah. all we need to do is talk about things, not just think that you can run through that. So if I was a small man that didn't have weight behind him, this wouldn't be happening. They would have just swept past here. That is not the country that we are built on, right? When we became a country, we had laws and rules, and that is for the government to follow and the people to follow. If the government starts breaking the rules, what do you think the people are encouraged to do? So we have to live by the rules that we all sit down and agree to. You cannot push people into things. You cannot. You have to. That is how you build a society.
So, bearing in mind, and I want to get your, in terms of what would be your further view in relation to the judgment that has come, and we're looking at it
That is
now
a temporary
from an
restraining.
environmentalist. Yes.
Restraining. My question is, what happened to the kids in the orphanage, which is the next mill down the road? All through COVID, I've been trying to get the kids out of the hospital, the place down the mill down the road, to come to the horse farm, to get out and riding and stuff like that, because riding is very good for children and for everybody. But you have these children locked up, and they cannot organize them to move just down the road to come and see by the stables. But yet, you're saying that you're building a roundabout where we have to see the plans. You cannot just, a contractor come and say, yeah, I'm building a roundabout there. The government give me money to build a roundabout. What of the people? What's happening from the kids that are living in the orphanage there? Where are they going? How are they? It's traumatic stuff, ripping people out of places. And you need to talk to them.
So, and you're saying at this point, even up to now with the situation taking place, that no one from the Tobago House of
No,
Assembly, whether it be technical officers or the politicians,
because I started protest from the Monday, which was the day after Mother's Day.
Yes.
I was sitting there waiting for the house did come 10 days later with 8 of them with what they were going to do. They were talking at me rather than with me. They were telling me the house wants to do this. But the contractor had already bypassed what they were saying. They were going to knock down the little wooden house. And I was kind of going, well, that little wood house.
So you recall who it is came in terms of...
I have just suffered with a stroke.
Right.
So my memory is really, really
But was
bad.
it the contractor or officials from the Tobago House of Assembly?
No, it was the Tobago House of, after 10 days, they turned up.
Also, officials showed up after 10 days?
Yeah, because there was another program that picked up me protesting.
Yes.
And I think that finally they were getting bad press, so they needed to rectify it. And I said, you all have no permission to do whatever you're doing. I still haven't been served with any papers. Which I still haven't up to now, still.
Based on what you've described as the situation here, Mr. Derek Hearn, and I know this must be very troubling because you've been there for such a long time based on what you have advised. Do you suspect that part of the fundamental challenge here is it has to do with the fact that, not having the deed and so on, and what you might consider, your right to be there without the necessary documentation, but at the same time, the authorities, but you're saying notwithstanding that situation, you were still waiting on the Tobago House of Assembly from even situations before to give you that same kind of comfort or confirmation in this space as others have received?
Any acknowledgement, I cannot understand how my cousin, who sells me as an encumbrance, and then some member of the house comes down to talk to me and say, we'll settle you. And then many years pass and nobody turns up. They just let me go on doing what I'm doing. In my world, that says that you acknowledge I'm here and I have my rights. which we all have rights. As if you're born a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, you have rights. They cannot come and move you without giving you a notice, without saying, this is what we want to do. It's any person, whether I am a landowner or not a landowner, you have rights, and there's procedure you take. Otherwise, somebody could want to do something and pick up somebody and move them, and some get arrested and said that's kidnapping. Others get and said that's policing. It is just the argument in law. So maybe some police officers might be getting personal for stopping the trucks, breaking up the place, and the bulldozers breaking up the place when I did not give them permission to be there. Because it's all illegal. They've mashed up my entire pasture. My horses still running down the road. They've driven through my pasture, and I don't have no fence to keep my horses in the stables.
Yes.
I mean, my uncle, who's a big horseman in Trinidad, he was trying to get lawyers for me. But it's really expensive hiring lawyers to deal with injunctions against the government. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. So poor people can't stop certain things. I don't know what's going on there because I don't really know who filed the injunction to stop the road and get the EMA involved.
But as far as you're concerned, that's just temporary.
Of course, it's temporary. That's how it
So
works.
your hope coming out of this, because we're just out of time, so we got to wrap. Your hope coming out of this is that they will come back to speak with you again?
They need to, because then I will start protesting again, and it looks really bad because I have big following all over the world because I used to be a musician outside doing lots of things.
Yes.
And you can't treat people like that.
Understood fully. And we got to leave it there this morning. And folks, we're having a conversation with Derek Hearn, environmentalist, and we're speaking to the current circumstances and the situation. And he's giving us a perspective, even dating back a number of years, seems like a wider issue at hand in relation to the Friendship Estate. So thank you so much, Mr. Derek Hearn, for joining us here on set this morning. Viewers, we have coming up in our next segment on set here with us at the Tobago Updates Morning Show, we have Mr. Joseph Jordan of the TTPS, and that is Sergeant Joseph Jordan of the TTPS, and we look forward to those upcoming discussions as we speak to updates from the TTPS and the powers of a police officer. We continue to look forward to those discussions coming up here this morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Viewers, we want to thank each and every one of you, those connecting with us online. We want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.